Hello, and welcome to the Practice Marketing Podcast, highlighting successful strategies from North America's fastest growing clinics and experts so you can learn from their wins and power your practice growth. Hi, I'm your host, Neil Trickett, CEO of Practice Promotions, and today we're going to talk with Dr. Mike Gorman, who owns iMove Physical Therapy, a mobile and in-clinic practice with 17 providers in Missouri, Illinois, and Oklahoma. He's also a Practice Promotions client, and over the past 2 years, iMove has seen really explosive growth, especially on their Google ads. And I'm talking not just from like 5 or 10 new patients, but like to 60, 70 new leads a month from that. So he's going to share how he's done that, also his growth and his model. So Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you for having me. And I'm honored. I heard this is 150th episode, so thank you for
Yes,
having me.
I think you're the honoree here to hit our 150th episode. So super excited for that. And we had a great chat a few years back when we were talking, and I was very interested in your model that you had at that time. And so for our audience out there, can you tell us a little bit of the history of iMove PT and how you are mobile franchise and how that's grown, and obviously brick and mortar too?
Absolutely. So iMove PT started as a company in June of 2020. So in March of 2020, I left the former company I'd sold my former practice to. So I had a different company in St. Louis. We had 7 clinics and we grew it. And then I sold it to Select Medical in 2017. And I worked for Select, which is known as SSM Healthcare or SSMPT in St. Louis. I worked for them for about 2.5 years, and it was fine. But when you're an entrepreneur, it's very hard to work for a big company like that. So I felt as time went on, I was just not very enchanted anymore with what I was doing. And so I left. However, as I'm sure you and your audience knows, when you're an owner of a company and you sell it, whoever you sell it to, you typically have a non-compete. That non-compete can be very extensive, and mine was very extensive. So that was 2020, about 2.5 years after I sold. And the pandemic had just started. I couldn't do outpatient in St. Louis because of my non-compete for another 2.5 years. So I didn't know what to do. So my wife, who's a brilliant person, we were sitting down one night and she goes, "Why don't you think about opening a mobile practice where you go and treat clients at their home, their office, wherever." She's actually a geriatric care manager. She's got a great company here in St. Louis. So she goes, "I'm sure that some of my clients probably would really love it if you went and saw them." So it just made sense because I wasn't going to drive 30 or 40 miles a day to go work in an outpatient clinic, which was allowed by my non-compete. It was just too far. So I did it, and that's how we started. In June of 2020, we did telehealth like the first month. That was right when the pandemic was starting. And for me, telehealth, I think telehealth was a nice thing, but I think if you're trying to build a practice solely off that, it can be tough. So that's when we morphed into a mobile practice in June of 2020.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. And so, how did it grow from there? Because then from what you were explaining to me, you built that up, and then you started to look at like a franchise model, and then eventually you added a brick and mortar place too.
Yeah, I truly thought, Neil, it was going to be me only doing this for a couple years, and I was going to figure out like what I was going to do outpatient wise. I truly thought that was all it was going to be. And then the more I started doing this type of mobile treatment in 2020, the more that patients loved it. They loved not only the one-on-one care, but the fact that obviously we went to them. So whether it was raining or snowing or whatever, they didn't have to worry about it. We came directly to them. And so they start telling friends and family. And, that's how it starts to grow. And we just began to explode. And then I think it was that fall, I probably hired my first part-time employee. And it really just took off from there. And so then in probably in 2021, I started thinking, because I've always wanted to build something that would help a lot of people. That's just kind of always was a dream of mine. Like, what could I kind of leave behind one day when I'm gone or not treating or whatever? What can we do to help a lot of people out there that maybe I can start and someone else can carry on? And so I thought about maybe franchising this model. I really didn't know much about franchising, but I'm like, this is a way that, because I know and that there's very few physical therapists that have great business training and business experience, and they're great at treating patients because that's what we're trained in. but a lot of them need help from a business standpoint. Maybe they want to have their own company, but they don't know how to do it. So all those things made me start thinking really strongly about building a franchise. And then I was working with my franchise law attorney all through 2021. I got very, very poor because lawyers are very, very expensive. But we got to the point where we were able to start to offer a franchise in like February 2022.
Hmm. Excellent. And so from there, how has that part of it grown?
Well, that was 2022. So now we're sitting about 3.5 years, almost 4 years after that. And, you know, since I never been a franchisor, I had no idea what to really expect. I didn't understand the amount of time that one would have to put into it. I know that thinking about being a franchisor sounds great, but you have to definitely put a lot of money and time into it. And so it's grown. Right now we have six mobile franchisees. Our first one was Dr. Tyler Trumbo. He's down in Tulsa. And then Craig Lee was our second one. Dr. Lee's in Kansas City. Dr. Jimmy Wilson's down in Joplin, Missouri, which is like Southwest Missouri. And those all happened in 2022. So that was great. I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to have 3 franchises a year. Oh man, it's going to be 20 by within 5 years. But yeah, it hasn't quite happened like that. But then the next 3, they were all mobile employees of mine. That it was a good timing because in summer 2023, my non-compete was over. So I opened up an outpatient clinic, outpatient iMove PT, a first brick and mortar in St. Louis.
Hmm.
And once that started, I knew that it was going to be too much to try to run the mobile, even though I wasn't doing mobile anymore, just to manage all that. And so, again, something my wife said is she goes, well, why don't you talk to a couple of your employees that maybe want more and see if they would like to become franchisees. And so that happened. And Dr. Alex Boer has taken over Metro East Illinois. And he worked for me as a PT for 2 years. So it was really good because he got to know the company, know how we operate, all those things. And then he took over as an owner. And then Dr. Jordan Van Dyke was February of 2024, and he took over a portion of St. Louis. And then Dr. Zach Boer, he is a PT, and he became a franchisee in February of 2025. And he has the rest of St. Louis that Jordan didn't have.
Hmm.
So right now, I mean, I don't have any mobile myself, but I'm the franchisor over these 6 people that, but I'm able to give them advice because I lived it for 3 years. And I think at the peak, we had like 14 therapists that were full time that were working for me when I had all of mobile, even going into Illinois. And just got to the point that was too much, too much for me for one person, especially when the outpatient clinic opened.
That's a really incredible story. So it's a very interesting and good concept, and I like what you're saying about that you're able to take employees that want to do more, that want to have more, and then be able to offer that to them. And we see that sometimes in clinics to scale where there's a PT in the clinic that can become a director, but then wants to have more. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're ready for that next location, like that could be an opportunity there to go partner, and makes it easier where you don't have to do everything yourself. You can have someone that you know and trust, and they've got a lot of skin in the game to make it go right. That's what we typically see from like a building a clinic location, but you did it more from a mobile PT territory
Mm-hmm.
perspective. So that's really cool to see that.
Yeah, it's been great. I've talked to so many people throughout the U.S. There was a couple of folks I really thought were going to come on board, and they were very close, sometimes a day or two away, and they decided to not do it. Um, but I've talked to people really throughout the whole U.S. And of course, when you're a franchisor, you have a franchise fee, and that's the right for you to own that franchise and operate that company in that area. Um, and so I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of people I've talked to say, yeah, this is a great idea. And either they want to do it on their own, which is fine, or they just don't feel like they can afford maybe the $30,000 franchise fee. Well, when you look at that compared to your whole career, that's a very, very, very small amount. But I think money still can put, put fear in people. And so, uh, yeah, it's been wild.
Mhm.
I saw people that after the first call, I knew they were done. And I saw people that were 3 months into it and I thought they were going to finish and they didn't.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting from that standpoint too, when you are looking at, um, opening a clinic or opening a territory, and franchisee is a model. And heck, if you look at the economy across all industries, like that's the most popular model, and for a
Hmm.
reason, right? Because you don't have to figure things out on your own. There's a proven framework of systems and processes and the way that we do it and how to get yourself off the ground that frankly saves you a boatload of money and time to get yourself off the ground, right? And if there's an established brand with it, I mean, that's why you do see, again, through the food industry, through service
Oh yeah.
industries, there's just lots and lots and lots of franchises because it's a proven model for that. So it's something for us to really look at in the PT space. And I think what you've done there is shown how you can do that from a mobile PT perspective, not just a location perspective.
Right. And we also do franchise now or have the ability if somebody wants to franchise a brick and mortar clinic now that we've had the model
Mm-hmm.
for 2.5 years in St. Louis. It's been great. Um, someone could come in and be a franchisee of an outpatient clinic. Someone could come in and do both.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of options out there. Um, but
Can
yeah,
you?
I think overall, whether it's right or wrong, I think people that are in healthcare and go into healthcare, they might tend to be a little bit more conservative.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not as many. I feel right or wrong. I could be wrong. I've been wrong a lot in my life, but not as many entrepreneurs go into healthcare as maybe some other fields out there. I think there's probably a lot more entrepreneurial chiropractors than there's entrepreneurial PTs because that's their training. They know when they're going through their chiropractic training, they're not going to go work as a PT for 5 years in a hospital. They're going to probably have to, uh, you know, they're going to have to learn pretty quickly what they have to do because they will ultimately have their own shingle up.
Yeah. And so
So,
you've worked both sides here, and I'm curious. You started off with the mobile part of it, right?
mhm.
And then you decided, hey, let me open up a physical location. What kind of led you to want to do the physical location? And then from there we can talk about like pros and cons for both, and how, if someone's
Yeah.
thinking about, a mobile or versus a location or doing both.
Well, I think that for me, I've been a PT now for 32 years. So at that point in time, it was 29 years. And pretty much 25 or 26 of those years had been in the outpatient clinic.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I knew I was probably headed towards. Now, when we do mobile, though, we really market it as, outpatient in the home. Because when you do mobile, you really need to separate yourself from home healthcare.
Yeah.
And so it was and it was also the fact that I wanted to kind of broaden our franchise. I wanted to give another offering. If a PT definitely thought this was a great idea, but they weren't really sold on mobile, but they wanted to do outpatient, I wanted to give them that option. But you kind of have to prove it. You can't just say, oh, now you can do an outpatient clinic. Well, why don't you have an outpatient clinic? So yeah, but I think it was just that's kind of been where all my experience was. And pros and cons, I think there definitely is pros and cons of each. So we treat one on one. So we're just so the people on this podcast know how we operate. We are the only insurance that we accept. We are a Medicare Part B provider. Um, all the other ones we are out of network with. So in the clinic, half of our patients are probably Medicare Part B, and the other half are out of network / self pay. And on the mobile, I would say the mobile is more Medicare
Mm-hmm.
Part B, but I really definitely think that there's a huge niche there for out of network self pay. Hey, we're going to come treat you at your office. You don't, bit busy attorney who's only has 30 minutes each day to rest. We're going to treat you in your office. So I think there's many ways that we can do it, but not as high of a out of network self pay mix right now on the mobile side.
Mhm.
But it's growing. It's
So
growing
that's
because
really, yeah, so that's fascinating to me because I didn't know that much about you in that I know the Medicare side, but I didn't realize that you are out of network for a lot of it. So
all
um, I'm,
plans.
I'm I'm curious how that's grown over time, right? Because there's a lot of practice owners there that are taking insurances that they, are lowballing them, that they
Yeah.
say, why am I working so hard for $50 for a patient, right, on a bad insurance?
Yeah.
And they're afraid to like dump that insurance because they don't know if they can do it on their own or out of network with that particular insurance. So I'm curious, how did you make that happen for you?
You know what? I just vowed that once I started iMove back in 2020 that we would never accept commercial insurance. I'd been in, I'd been in the insurance world for so many years, and I got so tired of trying to negotiate higher rates. And really, unless you're a pretty large company, you don't have a chance. That's my own feeling to get better rates. And the rates in St. Louis are, some of the major players are $60 a visit, $65 a visit. And I just was not going to go there anymore. And I was exhausted, tired of working in a busier clinic to support that.
Hmm.
Um, and so I just vowed. And so, um, when the clinic opened, one of the main things that was important to me was that we had technology in the clinic that nobody else had that would, I'm not going to use the word entice, but that would maybe differentiate iMove PT from all the other 10 clinics that are within 5 miles of me. And I just vowed that I would just do it and I would continue to market it and I would grow a thick skin because out of every 10 calls we get, probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 convert, but I'm okay with that.
Hmm.
We're not for everyone. We offer a very premium experience, whether you're mobile or brick and mortar. It's like I call it a 5-star white glove experience. We'll be with that patient one-on-one for an hour. Yes, they're gonna pay more for it, but not everybody wants McDonald's. Some people want Ruth Chris Steakhouse, and so I think from a marketing standpoint, we've tried to uh, get that point across. And I'm working with your team, and your team has done a great job over the last, whatever it's been 5, 6. We've been with you for 2+ years, I think, but from a social standpoint, I think the last 6 months you guys have been working with us, and really we try to do one post a month that really is a funny or outgoing or something white glove experience, really setting us apart. Um, because I think our consumers, unfortunately, they know with hotels that there is a Motel 6 and then there's whatever, the best hotel out there. But consumers don't know that PT can be good, it can be crappy, and it can be awesome. And there's some awesome PTs out there that unfortunately work in the environment that they can't be awesome. So I wanted to have awesome PTs, whether it be mobile or outpatient, that got to provide the experience that every patient should have, but very few get.
Hmm.
And I think that it is unfortunate that a lot of healthcare it's just changed. I mean, I've been in the business for 32 years, and it's definitely changed. Just because obviously, as your expenses go up, but the reimbursement is stagnant, not good.
Yeah, it's a huge problem. But I love people like you that are very innovative, and this is what I really have been advocating for is as a practice, your purpose is there to help the consumer, right, which is the
Right,
patient. And you
right,
got the middleman, which is the insurance company. So
yep,
who do you serve? Do you serve the middleman or do you serve the consumer?
right,
Every business usually has a consumer to business relationship, right? And
yeah,
so
yep,
I've even when I was in practice back in like early 2000s, I always knew my number. Like, what number do I need to be at? That's my worth, right? That's my worth as a business, as a practice, as a PT.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to take insurance that's below that, right? And I think every practice should stand up to that, and seeing people like yourself that are examples of, hey, you can run a different type of model, because there are a lot of people out there that either have very high deductible plans, or whatever, their insurance just doesn't cover hardly anything. And so they're getting more and more used to paying out of pocket for services, right? And
Mm-hmm.
especially there are a lot of people out there that want to go to the best place, right? And they're
Mm-hmm.
willing to pay for that. And so, but I think you brought up a good point that you can't just be traditional with it. You have to be 5-star. And I love what you said about bringing technology into the practice, because people will pay for technologies versus just pure hands-on, right? Because then they can't differentiate between, okay, why is your skills worth so
Mm-hmm.
much more than a PT down the street skills, right?
Yep.
But if you incorporate the technology, that makes it much more attractive.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but patients don't want to come in and just do exercise.
Very true.
I mean, it's just, I'm sure there's some out there that want that, but that's the exception.
Hmm.
And so, in fact, so many patients, I mean, I would say a good majority of our patients, especially a good majority of our self-pay or out of network, they've had PT elsewhere, and unfortunately they did not succeed. And they then know what general average is like, and they're like, well, that didn't work. And so I'm willing to pay more. But it is amazing that I do think consumers are getting much smarter, and you have to, yeah, I mean, you have to have you got to really promote a great product, but then when the patient's in your clinic, you better deliver.
The top 10% of PT owners aren't just surviving, they're thriving. But what's their secret? Well, Neil Trickett's new Market to Grow book reveals how the top 10% of PT practices leverage marketing systems to simultaneously grow their new patients, attract top talent, and boost profit in their practice. You can learn from their secrets. Visit practicepromotions.net/book to claim your free copy of Market to Grow. Yes, you heard that right. We are shipping a free copy of Market to Grow to all podcast listeners who want it. Just visit practicepromotions.net/book to claim your free book. And now back to the show.
But I've created that type of practice, type of model where it allows the provider to have that time. I mean, you know how it is, Neil, when you're in the clinic and you don't just treat a knee strain anymore. You're treating a hip, a low back, and a knee, or they may throw in a neck problem. Hey, I'm here. Let's treat this too. It's like these are human beings are not so simple, and there's a lot of complex things going on, different autoimmune things, and you got to go deep on people. But if you don't have the time, there's no way that you can do it.
Yeah, yeah, totally agree on that. And so you've been able to obviously scale iMove PT fairly rapidly within a 5-year period, and especially the last 3 years there. So for you, what has that growth looked like, and what have you really like brought in more new patients for that growth? Like, what's that look like for you?
Well, I would say the one thing that we don't do is I can count on one hand in the last 5 years the number of times we've done a physician lunch for more than 20 people. I just think that I'm not going to say those aren't worth it, but those days are, for me, those days are gone, because it used to frustrate me when I would go in and we'd buy lunch for the whole office, and then the physician or whoever the referral provider would like give us 1 minute, and then they were out the door.
Mhm.
Um, we know that we know for us, very few of our referrals now are like direct physician referrals. Um, we strive for 60% of our referrals to be either from past patients, friends or family of past patients, people that know us.
Mhm.
And so we always strive for that, because I don't want to just depend on a physician referral, because if they get upset at me, if they get bought out by a hospital, if they whatever, then that referral source is gone. So we have done a much better job of marketing to the consumer. Your company and what you guys have done for us has been a big part of that. because you're very consistent, you know? And I do not think that a practice owner can take on social media and everything else on their own. I guess if you're not treating it all, then perhaps you can. But not only do you have to have the time, you have to have that knowledge and skill set that,
Mhm.
it's just too hard to know all that. So, but when we brought you guys on, we started having a newsletter that went out every month, and we got a new website, and on and on and on. And now the last 6 months, you've been working with us doing our social media, which was very scattered before. And all that stuff, it's like you don't see it just like take effect 1 month, but you have to give it time.
Yeah. And that's a great point that you brought up is consistency, right? And that's for anything, right? So
Mm-hmm.
even in treating a patient, we can't just treat a patient one time and they're all magically better, right? We need consistency of care. We need to see them 3 times a week
Yep.
and keep them moving and progressing, and it's just the same thing with marketing, right? Like you're not going to see an instantaneous result from one particular thing that you're doing in the clinic. You might see a little traction, but it's the consistency that really makes the big difference. And like you said, you can't do all of that yourself. And the other thing I see too is like, if you have a marketing director in the clinic, a lot of times the practice owners think that all the marketing is going to be done by the marketing director. And you can't expect one person to be a website developer, an SEO specialist, a Google Ads specialist, and social media content writer, getting all the content from within the clinic and then coordinating all these things with patients. Like it's a lot to ask one person, right? I think it's also with these evolution in your business. So, one point you start off, you got to do everything yourself, right? But then you grow, you add some people, and then there comes a point where, okay, that's a function I need more help with to go to that next level.
Yeah.
So that's where you bring in a marketing director, but then you probably need to also get some outside help for the special stuff, right?
Yeah. We don't have a marketing director at this point. We've had a couple throughout the 5 years, and it just I don't know. It was a very hard role to fill. And then the more I started thinking about it, I was like, do I really need someone out in the community to drop off script pads and do things like that? I mean, and it's a little bit different for us as well because we're really a niche type clinic. We're really a one-on-one type clinic. Um, we only have our clinic is like 1,300 square feet, so it's not this big 4,000 square feet clinic that I have to fill up. I only need so many referrals, and right now this is the only clinic we have in St. Louis. And maybe one day if we have 2 or 3, I don't know, maybe we'll have to hire some at that point in time. But I just think that the practice owner needs to know the best places to spend money.
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of money and energy and time I spent with marketing directors throughout the years has been huge. And not that it's been all bad by any means, but I don't know. I just think that if you can find a specialist like your company to take all that off of my shoulders, that's been a huge help.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
if you have one person doing this and one person doing that, there's not a consistent branding theme, and that's where I think people go wrong too.
Yeah. And so I know that you put a lot of work into your brand. Can you tell me kind of your concept, your idea around your brand, kind of what you've done there?
Well, our logo, if you ever see our logo, it's a picture of a person like holding up a house, because when we started, we were mobile only, and our tagline, I think back then, was stay home, stay strong. Very much tied in with the pandemic. No one was leaving. It made sense. So that was our first tagline. But, our brand is I think our brand is about that premium experience.
Mm-hmm.
Our brand is being different. Our brand is being unique. Our brand is not for everyone, and we're okay with that. But in order to give the kind of service you need, you do have to get paid more than $60 a visit.
Yeah.
But
And
it's go ahead.
And you got to show that premium experience. And one thing I always admired from you from the beginning that we worked together starting a couple years ago is that you did put a lot of effort into getting great pictures and great imagery and really trying to tell the story. And you knew the vision of what you wanted the people to perceive you as. And I think for practice owners out there who want to take their practice to that next level, you got to
Hmm.
envision what the practice is going to look like, right? And what that feel is going to be. And then how are you going to communicate that through your marketing, and then certainly invest in photography, right? Invest in videography, because you got to show the experience, especially at a premium level. And I think you've done a wonderful job with that.
I think that there is certain things that you can take your own pictures and do your own video and pop it up on Facebook or Instagram. But when you're really trying to do something first class, I just think you got to have a pro to do it for you. Yeah, we've had videographers um, come in and they have done a lot of videos in our clinic. We've had photographers come in and do it right, have all the lights and all that because I wanted it to look right. I would rather spend $1,000 and get it done right than to spend $200 and have to redo it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And because that kind of stuff lasts for a long time. I mean, yeah, we're always changing and things like that, but you just, I think just the big thing is, Neil, you have to invest. You have to invest in yourself and your practice if it's going to grow. Um, and whether that's getting better clinical education or getting better business training or hiring an SEO specialist and they're going to take care of all that. You just have to invest in it. If you try to do it all yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be really, really burned out. I know money's tight.
Yeah, and you brought up a great point there in investment, right? Uh, I took a look at this recently too, because we're making some big improvements here, some reinvestment in practice promotions, and it made me realize that business is never linear. If you look at a graph, we all try to strive for that certain profit margin in our practice, right? But the realization is that there's going to be times when your profit margin is less because you're reinvesting in the business to
Yeah.
take it to that next level. And there's times when your profit margin is going to be more because you're reaping what you sowed, right? And I think it's just a great thing for practice owners to just think with, is like, okay, if I want to have a certain profit margin, maybe I have to do an investment here. Maybe the first thing I need to look at is my marketing. Is my marketing investment where it should be, so that I can produce enough new patients in here to keep my therapists full. I'm not having gaps in my schedules. Like that's an area to look at. Or maybe it's like, what, I need to actually, my biggest limitation is staff, right? So maybe I need to invest in, either marketing for that, or a recruiter, or some, whatever the effort needs to be. So there's ebbs and flows in your business where sometimes you're much more profitable than others, because it's the investment back into the business that lets you go to that next level.
Yeah. But again, I think people that are owners need to understand this is, you're spending money on yourself. You're spending money on your company that one day, whatever that day is, you look for, because you're not going to work forever. But if you put your time and money and your energy into something good, it will be a sellable product someday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
Um,
again, like if what an investor is looking for, or someone who's going to acquire a clinic, is they are looking, of course, at the profitability, but they're also looking at the growth. They're looking at the ability for it to run on its own. And if you've invested in your practice where you have a lot of great systems in place, and you've gone from, say, a $500,000 a year practice to a $2 million a year practice, well, the yes, you may not have gotten enough profit margin for some of those years that you thought you could have done, but the end result is that you're going to get a much larger payout because your clinic is way more valuable than it was
right,
5 years ago, right?
right.
So,
Yeah, I mean that's something when I've talked to therapists in the last 3 or 4 years about iMove PT and to become a franchisee, I'm like, you can continue to work for someone else. There's not anything wrong with that. But as Brian Gallagher always says, in 5 years, things are gonna be pretty much the same as they are now. Or do you want to invest in something for yourself? Yeah, you have a couple lean years, but at the end, because when you're a franchisee, the really cool thing about it is, yeah, you're an iMove PT franchisee, but that's your own company. You're building your own company, and one day you could sell that company.
mhm.
It's not mine, it's yours.
Yeah.
So I just think long term, I think someone that is a smart business owner and does it right and does it the right way, they're going to be so much better financially off than if they just stayed working for whoever they're working for. And granted, there's people that don't want to be an owner, and that's great.
Hmm.
But for those that have that little entrepreneurial spirit going in them, they should probably definitely take advantage of it.
Yeah, yeah, and like we were talking about before, there's the support for you, right? There that you don't have to figure everything out on your
Right.
own. Makes
Right.
the launch so much faster and quicker, and you become profitable much faster, right?
I tell them all the time. I say my job is for you not to make the same stupid mistakes that I made in my career. My job is to get you from point A to point Z faster than I did.
I love that. I love that. So we started working together a few years back. I'm curious
Mhm.
at that time, what was it that attracted you to practice promotions? Why did you decide to work with us?
I think I was just looking at options because our website wasn't what I thought it should be. Um, and I kind of wanted someone that was going to take charge of it, to be honest. I didn't have the energy anymore to really put towards it and to tell someone what I think it should look like. And I went a couple other routes before I finally landed with you. And those couple other routes, it wasn't as organized and as smooth. Your company has been fantastically organized, and we know when things are coming. We know what's got to be approved. We just know. And there's a lot of trust in that. And so I think I had just gotten maybe some of your postcards or your mailings, or I think I saw you at a private practice section conference as well. So just all these things kind of led me to you. And um, I don't know, it was just time. It was time to get a little bit more serious about this. And I didn't know from like an SEO standpoint, I didn't know anything how our website was. I just wanted a pro just to really take care of it, and you guys have.
Awesome. Love to hear that. Thank you. And so I know that there were certain things that we started to add on over the years there, and kind of curious, how did that look with your growth there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's no doubt that our referrals since you guys have come on have significantly grown, and again, without us being in the field doing everything. Um, we get a lot more Google calls. I mean, yeah, we run Google ads through you all. So we're paying for that. And over time it does pay off. But you have to invest some money into it and you have to be patient. You can't expect to pay 500 a month for 3 months and get all these leads and then you just quit. That's just not the way it's going to work. So you got to be in it for the long haul.
Hmm.
Um, and just, it's good to be, we're always putting out fresh content. You guys get us a newsletter every month. We mail it every other month. We email it every month. And we can upload new emails to you guys. So you include those people on our list. It's just really, really seamless.
Yeah, appreciate that. And like you said, it's a great partnership, right? Because for us working with clients too, while we do most of the work, we take the lifting, we look at it as a partnership. We look as a way
Mhm.
that we have to tell the stories from within your clinic. So we need your help to gather the stories and what you want to focus on. And obviously your goals may change throughout the year. So what can we do to help support you through those and come up with strategy together to move the clinics forward? So I think it's really important for people out there who are evaluating working with marketing agencies is that you don't want someone who's just going to promise to take everything off your hands and you don't have to do anything. Like
Right,
that's not a
right.
good fit, right? You want someone who's going to partner with you long term, help you with the consistency, work together on strategy, and ultimately help you reach your goals.
Well, and I really love the part that you guys worked with, like, I don't know what it was at that time, 12 or 1300 PT offices in the US and Canada. So that proved to me that you guys know what our company is overall about.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, it's been really, really good. It's been a great thing for us not to have to worry about anymore,
I love
for
to hear
sure.
that. Awesome.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited for the success that you've had. Can you tell us any big goals that you have for iMove PT for next year and even beyond?
Well, I definitely would love to have a brick and mortar franchisee or two. I'd love to start seeing that grow because the model is good. I mean, the model is good. Yes, you have to be willing to not well. We all sell our product every day. Every time you see a patient and you do an evaluation, you tell them what the plan of care is. You're selling. I
Hmm.
know that selling is a too many people in healthcare think that's a bad word, but you're selling every day. Um, But when you're an owner of, a company like ours, where we're primarily, except for one insurance, we're out of network self-pay, you have to be able to understand what it is that we do and then market what it is that we do. And you got to know how to sell a premium experience. But again, when a franchisee comes on board, they get a lot of training in that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one thing, and the other thing is, just seeing the guys that are currently franchisees, seeing them keep growing. I mean, their teams for the most part have expanded, and I think having them to maybe start to expand a bit more to where we're getting out of people's homes and treating more in office settings and things like that, because there is a good chunk of people that work so much that it's hard for them to get out to a clinic once, twice, or three times a week.
Yeah.
And so
I love that model.
we can go directly to them, to the busy attorney, maybe the busy physician, all these people. But again, you have to know who your consumer is, and you got to put out the product for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love your vision. I love your innovation there. Mike, any final words of advice for our audience?
I would say this is also not my words, but Brian Gallagher said these words, so you maybe have heard them. But we need to, when you're a PT business owner, you have to understand that you're a business owner who happens to be a PT, not a PT who happens to be a business owner. You have to create that time for you where you're not just treating a patient. I know we all struggle with that, especially when we just open. Yeah, when you just open, you're going to be the whole deal, but you need to quickly hire some folks to start to unload you, so you're not treating 40 plus hours a week, because you can't grow and you can't innovate if you are treating that much. So really, that to me is, and it's something I struggle with as well, because Neil, when you've been treating in a while for a long time, people say, oh, I want to see Mike. Oh, well, that can't always happen, because you're never going to leave that treatment table, and then you're kind of a traitor to your own company if you're not setting time away to really innovate, grow, and plan.
Got to captain the ship. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mike. Your innovations here. I love what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you for your advice here. And so for our audience out there, Dr. Michael Gorman with iMove PT in the St. Louis area, check him out, because they've got a really cool practice there. And yeah, if you ever want to contact him about franchising information, check him out. He's got stuff on his website too. So thanks, Mike. I really appreciate you giving us great insight into your practice here today.
Well, I want to thank you, and I want to congratulate you, because 150 podcast episodes. If this is number 150, that is impressive, because we used to have a podcast a couple years back, and it's a lot of work. So good job. Good job.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Great guests like yourself. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. So to our audience out there, thank you so much for following us. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe us here on our podcast, as well as on our YouTube channel, where you'll see the video versions of our podcast, plus lots of other tips and advice that we have on there. And then don't forget to check out practicepromotions.net. We've got tons of downloadable PDFs and tips and advice for you on marketing your practice. So check that out. This is Neil Trickett from the Practice Marketing Podcast, wishing you much success in your practice.
A free way for you to support our show is by leaving a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It's a chance for you to tell us what you love about the show, and it helps others discover it as well. Just scroll down to ratings and review on your phone and click write a review. Thanks.